Welcome back to Triple Down Gaming, everyone. Tonight we are going on to part two of our Craps Understanding series. And for this part, we are going to be walking through the number bets, specifically for the 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, and 10. Now, with the number bets, again, these are typically going to be standing bets, meaning that in the case of if that 7 or specific number is not rolled, the point or number will not lose or win. So with the number bets, there are three types of bets that we're going to be walking through today. The first is the place bet, which will typically be located in these rectangle boxes below the numbers. And then the second set will be the buy bets, which will typically be located within the number box and typically marked with a buy chip like that. And then the third type of bet is a lay bet, which was located typically in these rectangular boxes above the number boxes and marked with a lay chip like that. So to start off, we're going to walk through again the place bets first. Now, after a point is established, again, typically any lay bet or place bet or buy bet, typically those will not be active on the come out roll unless you specifically tell the dealer that you want them working on the come out roll. Now, again, for this simulation and kind of walkthrough, we're going to go with the typical understanding that, again, they are not working on the come out roll. So for illustration purposes, we're going to start with, say the point is an 8. Now, in many cases, say you wanted to place bet the 4. Again, we're just going to go through some easy dollar amounts here, $10 for each. And we will say place bet the 4, 5, 6. Again, the 6 will always have to be in increments of 6, or the 8 will also have to be in increments of 6. So again, in that case, we're going to put 12 there. And we will put 10 on the 10 and 10 on the 9. Now, after the point is established, again, the shooter will have his or her 2 dice. We will pull the remainder back. And they will roll. Now, the payouts for each of these are 9 to 5 on the 4 and 10, 7 to 5 on the 5 and 9, and 7 to 6 on the 6 and 8. So in this case, again, $10 will pay you $18, and then $10 on the 5 and 9 will pay you $14, and then $12 on the 6 and 8 will pay you $14 as well. So again, we'll go through a couple of quick rolls here just to illustrate this. Again, in this case, again, a 2 is rolled. Not the best illustration there. Again, in that case, as kind of mentioned earlier, if neither the number, again, 4, 5 in this case, 4, 5, 6, 9, or 10 is not rolled, or 7 is not rolled, in this case, again, these are standing bets, meaning they will not win or lose. It will simply be a stand, as we'll call it. Now, again, we'll go through another roll here. In this case, a 5 is rolled. So again, in this case, the $10 place bet will pay $14. In this case, again, $2 to $5 chips and $4 in ones. Now, the other unique thing that can be done sometimes with the number bets is what they will call as pressing. And again, this can happen typically with, again, any set of the 3 bets that we described. Now, pressing is, say, again, in this case, a 5 was rolled. Say you think a 5 is going to roll again, you could say press the 5, in which case, again, you can instruct the dealer whichever amount you want. In this case, we'll say, okay, press the 5 for 10. they will put an additional $10 on top of your original $10 bet. But in this case, we're just going to go with the regular bets here. And we'll go through one more roll here to kind of show everything. So then in this case here, the 7 is rolled. So again, all the place bets, as we already know, the goal and bet essentially is that, okay, we are going to bet that a 4 was going to roll before a 7. Again, that is the case for all of these bets. So in this case, all of these would lose when that 7 is rolled. And those are typically how the place bets are played. Now, going into the buy bets, those can be a little bit different. Again, buy bets and lay bets are a little bit more complicated than your simple place bets. And the complicated piece is the buy and lay bets will pay at their true odds. And to achieve those true odds, again, casinos are not going to simply just, okay, give you the true odds. In this case, they're almost going to charge all the time a 5% commission, or VIG, as they call it, on either your bet amount or winning amount. So starting with the buy bets here, and the unique thing with buy bets is typically you are always going to want to buy the 4 and 10, and depending on when the casino makes you pay the VIG or commission, you can potentially buy the 5 or 9, and you will never want to buy the 6 or 8, again, due to those house edges when you are doing the final calculations when you include the VIG. So buy bets for the 4 and 10 will pay 2 to 1. And again, typically when you're placing a buy bet, again, whether it is the 4 or 10 or 5 or 9, there are two major differences that are typically looked at when you are buying or placing those bets. And that is when that 5% VIG, whether it is paid before you make the bet or after you win the bet. So say in this case, again, we have a point of 8. Say, and in most cases, with that 5% commission, they will have a higher minimum bet as well for buy bets, so that VIG, as they call it, commission, reaches at least that minimum of $1. So in most cases, it'll be, say, a $20 minimum for a buy bet. Now, again, buy bets will typically always be denoted with this buy chip that is placed on top of the bet, and typically it is always placed within the number box. We will go through a couple here. Again, we will buy the 4 in this case, and we'll buy the 10. Now, in this case, again, to say the casino is more of an aggressive place that you are at, again, it all depends at the local casino that you are at. Here in Chicagoland, at my local casino, they make you pay the commission or VIG up front and not after a winning. So in this case, again, $20 buy bet here will be charged $1, and same with the 4 there. So in this case, again, the player would place $40 for the bet and then an additional $2 for that VIG commission. And then as you roll, say in this case, a 4 is rolled, 3 and 1. Again, we already paid our commission of $1. This will pay 2 to 1. So again, that'll be one stack of 20 and another stack of 20. So again, paying those true odds is a little bit better payout, especially for the 4 and 10 when you're buying, due to that 2 to 1 true odds. Again, in a normal case of, say, a regular $20 place bet, again, that is only paying 9 to 5. You would not win the full 40 there. You would only win about 36. So instead of 36, again, you're winning an extra $3. Now, several of you might say, oh, that's not worth it. Again, depending on your risk appetite, especially when the vig is paid up front, that is kind of a fine line where, again, maybe it's just easier to place bet, as especially if you lose the buy bet, you're not getting that extra dollar vig back. That is, again, just another dollar lost. So again, it's kind of up to your risk appetite as well in terms of whether to do the place bet or place the buy bet. Now, again, just to kind of reinforce that, buy bets and place bets are almost the same thing, except one is paid at, again, the place bets are paid at designated payouts, and buy bets are placed at the true odds. But again, the basic understanding behind both of them is you want to roll whichever number you bet before a 7 is rolled. Now, the next bet is a lay bet. And a lay bet is the opposite of a place and buy bet, where essentially you're betting for a 7 to be rolled before that specific number is. So, again, in most cases, when a player first establishes a point, typically it is not the best thing to do, place a lay bet right out of the way. But again, as a shooter, say, goes on for several rolls, maybe you might see some players starting to place a lay bet. Again, 7 being the most common number, the longer it goes without being rolled. Most people will say, well, it's going to come around eventually, and we'll place a couple lay bets. So lay bets will pay again on the 4 and 10. They will pay 1 to 2. Again, the also unique thing with lay bets is all of them pay below 1 to 1. So even if you bet, say, $40, you're never going to actually get paid $40. You're always going to be paid lower than that. But going on, the 4 and 10 will pay 1 to 2, the 5 and 9 will pay 2 to 3, and the 6 and 8 will pay 5 to 6. Again, in those cases, for whichever one you bet, say in the case of the 4, if we were to bet, say, $20 here, that would only win us $10. And say again, if we were to bet, say, $30 on the 5, that will only pay us $20, and so on for the 6 and 8. Those will only be paying 5 to 6. Now, to go through a couple illustrations here, again, we will say, okay, for this illustration, imagine the shooter has established a point of 8. They have gone on for, say, 5 or 6 rolls now without rolling a 7. And you might say, okay, I think a 7 is going to be coming around here. I think I'm going to put, let's put $20 on the 4 for a lay bet, and typically placing that rectangle above the number with a lay chip. And another player might say, okay, I think the 7 is coming around as well. I'm going to place a $30 lay bet on the 9. Now, similar to a buy bet, lay bets will also charge a 5% VIG. The difference being that VIG is charged based on the win amount, not on the bet amount. Whereas a buy bet VIG is charged based on the bet amount. A lay bet VIG is charged based on the win amount. So again, since that 5% commission is coming into play, typically those minimums may be higher than, say, the table minimum, just to get that 5% VIG, as they call it, up to a minimum of $1. So again, we had one player place a $20 lay bet on the 4, another player place a $30 lay bet on the 9. So we will go for a few rolls here to see what happens. Okay, so in this case, a 9 was rolled. Now in this case, again, the point was rolled before the 7. So in this case, the lay bet would lose, as the number was rolled before a 7 was rolled. Now, again, for illustration purposes, we're going to set the dice here to a 4, or I should say a 7. In this case, a 7 was rolled prior to a 4 being rolled. So again, lay bet being original bet amount of $20, again, based on the 4, that will only pay us 1 to 2. That will only pay us $10 minus the 5% VIG. That would be only $9.50. Again, for that exact reason, most casinos will charge that minimum, say up to at least say 40, so that VIG is at reached $1. Again, in this case though, for my chips, we do have 50-cent chips, so that $20 lay bet will win $9.50. Again, original winning amount would be $10, 1 to 2. 5% VIG is that 50 cents. So that is kind of the illustration there on lay bets. Again, they typically are not that common to be played for the exact reason of neither of them, whether it is the 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, or 10, none of them will pay 1-to-1. That payout is always below 1-to-1. And so that is why it is not too common of a bet you will see, but the buy bet for the 4 and 10 will almost always be made. Place bets are always good to be made as well. Again, 4, 5, 9, and 10 must be in increments of 5. The 6 and 8 must be in increments of 6. And depending on when the VIG is played for buy bets, again, as a reinforcement, whether it is paid before or after the bet is resolved, you always want to buy the 4 and 10. Typically, if that VIG is paid before the bet is made, typically you will not want to buy the 5 and 9. But if the VIG is only paid if the bet is won, then you will always want to buy the 5 and 9. But as I will mention again, depending on your risk tolerance and what you believe will happen, and depending on, again, how long has a shooter been rolling, that can also influence, whether you want to buy the bets, place them, or even lay them. So in this case, again, that is all of the place bets, buy bets, and lay bets in craps. If you guys have any questions or any other combinations of bets or strategies to try out, feel free to put them in the comments and come on for part 3, where we will walk through the field bet.